faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interrunti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Whoa, that intro was pretty loud. Hey, this is Walter from iWalter. I actually did not think, I am not kidding, I did not expect to do a show tonight, but then I was discussing something with some friends today, basically one-sided messages, but the one finally got a response, and it was like, you know what, maybe I better do a podcast. First off, thank you so much, Matt, music teacher guy, the other day for doing a show with me, because it was good for me, because it wasn't like my normal type of situation or show where I was, you know, which I'll do tonight, I gotta make up for that, complaining about somebody or something with our society, our country. Yeah, it was pretty clear-cut, straightforward, and it was not my normal comfortable situation where I know what I'm talking about. Well, actually, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it was normal. It is actually Monday, September 10th still, for the next 2 hours of my time, but by the time this thing goes up on the air, it's going to be a whole different story. So that was number one. Hey, you know what was kind of interesting? I didn't know this. I haven't been keeping up with it either. That's my desk. Boy, it's very sensitive, my mouse and the way I touch things. The mic will pick up every little noise. I think I've mentioned this a million times at this point, but I've been using, I bought a cheap laptop when I was still working. I'm still out of a job since April 17th. I'm getting closer and closer. I just need to express my feelings because it's been a total waste of time. I've gotten different lawyers involved. The last lawyer actually called me today and wanted to know where I want to go with this. And I said, well, I'd like to see if I can get reinstated at my job because I feel like what happened to me was an unlawful termination or whatever you want to call it. But it was definitely not justifiable in my opinion and by numerous people I had spoken to. And 4 of these people were lawyers. So, because I explained my situation, okay, what I did, was it really that bad to get fired from it? And, different people that, again, were lawyers and didn't know about the other one, looked over everything that happened, the whole situation. They said, yeah, this really is ridiculous. You should have not gotten fired. So, technically, I am not officially completely fired because I am still paying into health insurance, which would otherwise, I told a friend, would cost me a lot more money. Right now I'm paying what I would pay as I was still an employee at this particular job. So that part's good. But I've already said too much already. But yeah, that day is going to come where I'm just not going to really even care because it's been like 6 months. I've been on unemployment for 6 months. I've applied to different jobs. I've actually applied to Johnson & Johnson numerous times, and like these were for jobs that basically said you just need a GED for. It's like I'm not going to go for something that's way over my head. I know people who do that. They apply for jobs they really are not qualified to get, but they figure, you know what, I'm going to shoot for the gusto. Well, you know what? You do that stuff, you get that job, and then you show up and you tell big enough lies to these companies, they're going to figure it out pretty quickly, and you're going to end up going to be worse off than you were before. And I don't do that. I'm right up front. Hey, I got a certain situation. I definitely am covered under the Disabilities Act, so I want to let you know I have a disability. But my one friend, Matt, he's absolutely right about this. What is my downfall? Well, one thing he did not say this. If you tell them you have a disability, they'll say, oh, we can't discriminate upon you. Well, they can also not hire you. The situation that arose with Matt in a discussion is the issue that I am 51 years old. Well, you're too old. We don't want to hire somebody because you're going to be a bigger liability than somebody who's 20-something years old. Well, the difference is I will show up to the job. That 20-something-year-old millennial probably most likely is going to have more important things to do, especially on Friday nights and weekends, if you ask them to work, than I would, because I have nothing going on. So, yeah, I would be less of a risk taker than that person. And my health is in pretty good condition, so I don't understand that at all. I have a bone to pick with somebody, too. Matt, you might laugh at this. The other week, and thank you again, Matt was great because he had taken me and another friend out of Matt's more so, because I'm really not that much of a friend in so many words or less, but, he's a nice guy, Ed Rick. So Matt picked both of us up. Matt helped me do the podcast, so thank you for that. Something that was a bit different, which was more of a challenge for me, but it was actually a good challenge. But he had taken us out. He had paid for a meal for me because he said, Walt, you're not working, so I appreciate that. I can't expect that out of a lot of people, or actually probably anybody at this point. So we hung out, and where was I going to go with this? I'm drawing a blank at this point. Well, one thing, Matt, we have a challenge that Ed Rick likes. He's a drummer. He's a drum instructor, by the way, around this area of Norristown. Trooper. He's a big fan of Joe Bob Briggs, and I remember him. I'm not a big fan, but I told Ed, hey, if you go to this convention, because it's like in North Jersey, it's like over 2 hours away, about 2 hours. And the challenge with me and Matt with that, by the way, is will Ed Rick go? And if so, would he take me? Because I said, I would. Matt did mention this. Hey, Walter will give you some money for gas. I would, because that's 2 hours I'm not driving in my car. The problem is, would Ed be able to handle me for 2 hours in a car, just me and him? Because I wouldn't know what to talk to him about. So, there's that. Some of the stuff, I think, I did lose my train of thought, but some of the stuff we brought up that night, it was on Saturday night, was stuff that kind of like, you know what, I'd like to talk about this. And one thing is, I totally forgot about this. I actually ripped it from something different, Ken Matthews, about a week ago. A little over a week ago, week and a half ago, something on illegal immigrants and in the States. Maybe it was in PA. And the situation we have now with whooping cough. And it was like, yeah, I want to use this for a show. And it's been sitting there. And actually, I buried it on my main computer, and I had to figure out where I put it, which wasn't that hard. That's another thing I have to bring up. I have to apologize to Matt. Yeah, you know what? When I used to do these shows every night, because I did at first when I did podcasting, when I first started out about 3 years ago, possibly 4, I was right on the money, knew where everything was, like what particular laptop I was going to use, where the mic equipment was, where the little amp box was, the cables. I knew where everything was, kind of. More so than I did when I did the show with Matt. In fact, even tonight I started around 9:30, and plus I was looking for some material. But that had taken me a little bit over an hour. So Matt tells me I should be a little bit more prepared, because people are not going to work with somebody who is just disorganized. So that's me all the time. I've always been like that. But once I get started, I am good. And that was another thing I was going to mention, that before I really went off in a completely different direction to what I wanted to talk about tonight, was, I don't know how to use it, honestly. People think I know a lot about computer software and hardware. Hardware, yeah, I kind of do, but I have to actually honestly thank Rich for that, because I wouldn't even know 3/4 of what I know if it wasn't for Rich. I know maybe less than a quarter, maybe 1/8. It was stuff that I picked up on my own. But really, everything I know is because of Rich Minjan. I had a show on with him, which I thought was going to do a lot better than it did. And what's going on, folks? I don't have any folks to listen because I was going to ask. I only have 7 listeners, and that's just between me and Matt. So 7 listens, or 7 people listen to the show. Now, the other day I did have somebody, it seemed like, according to my geographical location, there was somebody from Germany who kind of tuned in, so I appreciate that. I always like people from other countries. God, I appreciate anybody who listens to me because that's never really happening anymore. And that's because I don't do shows on a regular basis. So, anyway, I've like wondered, I was like, wow, it's been a long time because the thing about my system, I'm using Linux. I bought a cheap laptop, and it did cost at Micro Center, I think $300, which is really cheap. It looks like a plastic toy because it's that cheap. But I didn't care because I was really interested, how well does this damn thing work? And plus, I bought it because it came with Windows 10, and it was a really nice version of it, but I ripped it off, and I put on Linux. At first, I put Ubuntu, and I had a real hard time with it. And Ubuntu is the easiest version of Linux you can use. So, learning from Rich, there was another version, and it was called Linux Mint. And I've been running that. It was like, wow, this actually works perfect with, even with the podcast, and it works better than my $1,500 laptop. I mean, it works much better. And it's on a crappy laptop I bought for $300. So I was wondering, I was like, wow, Linux hasn't really gave me any. So you got to do that on your own, unfortunately. Linux, every so often, they put out a new version of whatever version of Linux you're running. Well, they did that again. And I remember Rich telling me about this. This is why it's stuck in my mind. I think the last time we really got in a deep conversation about software. And it was like, I looked up tonight on through a Google search, and it was like, yeah, when's Linux going to put out another version of Mint? Well, they do have one out, and it's version 19. And this one's going to be good until 2013 or 2023. So it's like, wow, this is perfect. Now, the beautiful thing about Linux, one, it is very stable. There's a lot you can do with it. There's a lot to learn on it, but I'm just lazy. I'm not going to deny the fact. I'm very lazy, and I don't have the patience. If I sat down with this 6 months I had off, because Rich said my friend Rich, he gets some very good IT jobs, and he's self-taught. And I asked my friend Matt, what about this friend of yours and mine, kind of, Monty, who was also an IT person? And I said, well, did he go to college? Did he get his degree in becoming an IT from going to college for particular classes? Matt said, no, he actually did go to college, for a friend of ours, Monty, but he actually taught himself. And he has, in the past few years or even longer, he's gotten some pretty damn good jobs, but learning learning how to do IT work is not necessarily a job that you need to go to school for. It's that you need to have the patience and the time to do so and teach yourself how to use these programs and how to learn. Like, I remember one time Rich actually went as far, my friend Rich, he cracked out a book on C++. And I looked at that as like, you know what? I wouldn't even last 30 seconds with that book. It would end up in the trash can as a doorstop, or probably if I had a fireplace, it would definitely be the thing you would put into the Kindle to start the fire, or whatever you want to call it. Because I would not have that much patience. I really wouldn't. I will admit to that. I have about as much of attention span as a 3-year-old. Probably a 3-year-old have more than I do. So, unfortunately, that's my downside. But anyway, with the Linux Mint, Again, there is a version 19. Now, if you want to, which I did so the first time, because I have a baggie full of flash drives. You can get any of those flash drives. You just wipe it clean, or you can do it yourself, or you get a program that wipes it clean, and then install a starter disk of whatever version of Linux Mint or any other version of Linux you want. They're called boot disks. So normally, the last time when I put it on the machine I'm using tonight, I did this on my own, and I had my friend Rich, make sure I did everything correctly. And it wasn't that hard. I mean, it's idiot stupid. You can do this. Anyone can. You don't need any know-how to make a Linux boot up disk. They kind of walk you through it. This time I was just like, well, you know what? I'm just lazy. I'm sorry. I'm not working. I've been trying to look for work. That's where I started, somewhere on one of these conversations I had never finished. But, yeah, so I this time around, because it kind of gives to the people who develop this stuff for free. They don't get paid for this. They do it because they love not only Linux, they just love the whole thing, just about learning about computers and understanding them, not just, okay, I got Windows on here, that's all I need to know. No, you got to know a little bit, not a lot. You can learn a lot if you really put your mind to it with Linux. So anyway, there's, again, I think I mentioned this before, there's a version 19. I have 18.6 or 18.3. So yeah, that's not a milestone. That's going to be the next. That's like going from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10 probably. I don't know. So it's a pretty major update. They're going to stick with it for the next, what is that, till 2023, 2018. And yes, I do need to use my fingers. What is that, like 5? 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, it's like 5 years. And I did use my fingers. So, yeah, and it was like, okay, well, you can download it, make your own boot disk. That won't cost you a nickel. It won't cost you anything. So, but if you want to, we can send you out a disk. It's like $5, and we will mail you out a version 19 disk of Linux Mint. It's like, you know what? That way, maybe I'll just do that because I'll have the disk. I'll lay it aside. And if I have to reinstall it, I'll have the disk. Because my problem is I even misplace, even in the baggies, I'll forget, and it's hard to mark flash drives. So I can do it, but for $5, I figure I'll order one, have it shipped to the house, and I'll update my Linux Mint from 18 whatever to 19, which will be good for the next couple years. Now, there's still, if you are running the OSIM, it's still getting updates. So it's not like they forget about you. They will keep that alive for so long, but I think once 19 gets near a certain point, then they will stop discontinuing updates for the one I have. So I was just kind of curious. Again, I could have downloaded it. Now, if you really want to be generous to the folks in this version of Linux, the Mint version, you can actually buy a flash drive version, and that can go anywhere from $16 to $25. And it's like, yeah, the disc is enough because I feel like I'm not robbing the people. I really don't have any money to throw around anyhow. So $5. I'm kind of thinking, well, I'm kind of doing it because not that I use Linux as much as I use my Mac OS operating system, because I'm on that 24/7 almost sometimes. I'm exaggerating slightly. Or Windows. I really just don't like Windows at all. And I got a couple machines. They're all laptops. All of them are running Windows, and I don't even bother. All of them are running Windows 10. The closest I get to running Windows 10 is whenever I start up the Xbox, because that is running a certain version, not the same, but it is pretty much some form of Windows 10 is on the Xbox, and I have the Xbox One X. So that is the closest I get to running Windows. Everything else is Mac-based. So number one is Mac. Windows is and at this point with Linux, it's only when I do a podcast. But it does a very nice and clean job. I don't run into all the complications that I somehow run into with Mac OS. I use the same software program, but for some reason it does run differently on different devices. And that is, trying to look for the name of it because it doesn't come up when you're using it. Audacity. So, in fact, it was funny. I remember that was a couple years ago now when I did an interview with the guys from that TV show, Comic Book Men, and I used a Star Wars Limited Edition Windows 10 based with Audacity to record them doing an interview. And it sounded like I was submerged underwater when I was doing it. So again, same program, but it ran like dog crap. It sounded horrible. Unfortunately, the one guy I interviewed, he passed away, and he wasn't that old. He was younger than me. But yeah, he passed away. And it was like, well, this is a recording I have of this man, which I forced him to do an interview with me. And it would have been great if it sounded better, but it sounded like total dog crap. So, and he was really worried. All those guys were worried about doing a podcast with me because they were under a contract with A&E for doing that Comic Book Men. So that's why they did not want to do an interview with me. They thought it would be a conflict of interest. They thought they could get in trouble for that. It's like, well, listen, nobody listens to iWalter, so you have no problem, gentlemen. Alrighty, I'm always worried I won't get an hour out of a show. I try to keep it within the hour span. I will tonight, and I promise you I will try to play that segment. I did have my segment I wanted to complain about. I'm not sure how I'm going to fit all this stuff in at this point because it's already 22 minutes in. Anyway, I was kind of surprised. There was a movie, now I haven't seen it myself, that I wanted to see. It was called Peppermint. And I'm trying to look. Wow, I can even hear my mouse moving. That's pretty weird. And, God, who was the main actress? Because I was making a joke earlier about this. She was married to Ben Affleck. I kind of added a little bit more to that. Oh, Jennifer Garner. I don't see it, but it just popped in my head. Yeah, my memory is really bad. So, yeah, that movie looked really good because it's what I like to complain about, illegal immigration and things like that. And her family, her family in the movie, completely, well, even like little kids, her daughter, she had a daughter in the movie, the character she plays, everyone gets killed by illegal immigrants. And it was like a drug cartel from Mexico. So the movie is about her getting vengeance by basically going after this drug cartel and killing everybody off. I mean, it's like an ultra-violent movie. Well, it got the worst reviews because why? It's not politically correct, for one thing. And it's a, American woman who lost her whole family from the hands of illegal, I'm not saying that word right, illegal immigrants. And when she tries, what I've seen in the previews, it appears to be, she goes to the authorities about this and they don't want to do anything about it. So she takes the matter in her own hands and she takes care of the problem permanently. And it was like, you know what? When I saw the previews for that, I was like, this is going to be on the top of my list to go see. Now, the good news is it did come in number 2 this week. But also, it didn't make that much money. It made very little money. So it's not going to stay at number 1 for very long. Yeah, it's kind of funny. There was 2 movies that said, number 1 week, because I thought they both, because like, how could 2 movies come in at number 1? No, it's number 1 week for Peppermint. That was the name of the movie. I haven't mentioned it before. The other movie that I did go see, which I was kind of looking forward to, didn't expect much out of it, and even got less. I was less enthusiastic after watching it. And thank goodness I didn't pay for it, because I used this thing called Movie Pass. You pay $10 a month. Used to be you could see all the movies you want for $10 a month. They changed it to 3 movies a month for $10, which is still good, because I got the ticket stub right here. I'm going to look at it. And it was for that movie called The Nun. You know, same people who did The Conjuring and stuff. That movie was horrible. I hate to say it, and it was not scary. I get scared at a person sneezing almost. I get scared at everything. I drive my friend Matt nuts because I just am very jumpy and very on edge and just a complete mess. And I was sitting there, I was like, this movie's not scary. In fact, I'm trying to stay awake. In fact, I'm trying to keep from laughing all the time. It wasn't really funny, but it was funny. And it's supposed to be a horror movie. So anyway, without Movie Pass, I would end up paying $13.15. With Movie Pass, I paid $10, and I got 2 more movies to go. And I don't pay any more than $10. So, hey, that'll pay for itself. And again, Peppermint was the other movie. I was kind of hoping, but that won't be until next month anyway. They keep on changing the date for Doctor Who with Jodie Whittaker. Because I'm going to say it right, Matt. And one time they said it was going to be the end of September. Then they said it was going to be September 13th. Now they're saying, like, I think September 7th or something. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Jodie Whittaker, new Doctor Who, was supposed to come out the last week in September. Then they changed it because I read different sources of news on the new Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker. Matt, again, I'm saying it right. Then they changed it because I end up pre-ordering it. Or, Walter, where do you get all this money from? I don't have money, trust me. I got twice that I had bounced money out of my checking account, twice. It happens an average of at least 1 or 2 or 3 times a week because not having a job and working on a fixed income of unemployment, it's very difficult. I try, but it's very difficult for me to change my spending habits, and they're really bad. They're much better than they used to be, but they could be a lot better yet. So, so I got in the mail, my dad, he opened my mail, and he said, if you ever need money, it's like, I'm not going to even bother because you're going to bitch and complain if I borrow money from you, so I'll just suffer through bouncing, these imaginary checks because I only use my debit card. I never wrote out a check in years. I just use my debit card. So, I lost my train of thought again. So, and I'm wasting time anyway. So, I pre-ordered because I'm going to do that. I've been watching Doctor Who since I was 12 years old. I'm 51. Do the math on that one. Well, you should know better. Well, that's the only thing. That is my alcohol. That is my vice. That is me going to a strip club for other normal guys. For me, my vice, well, amongst many of them, is Doctor Who. It always has been, and it always will be for as old as I am. So I ordered on iTunes so I can get the shows and watch them very clear without commercials because I don't know where else they're playing. I ordered a season pass for Jodie Whittaker on Doctor Who. So somewhere I actually did take a picture and I send it because they changed the date twice more. They changed it from October 13th again to September 20. Oh no, I'm sorry. Originally, they had it for September, I'm going to guess, like September 27th. Then they changed it to October 13th, and that wasn't good enough. So they changed it again, and the final time, which I'm going to go by that, was the one that I actually got. Here we go. I got the thing from the season, ordering the season pass from iTunes, and I'm going to say that iTunes has got to be the correct one. So what iTunes had said when I did the pre-order for Jodie Whittaker episode, I'm reading that right now from what it said on the screenshot I had taken. Episode 1 of Doctor Who world premiere on October 7th, 2018, and will release on iTunes October 8th, 2018. Bigger and bolder than ever, this season marks the arrival of Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor, a super smart force of nature alongside a team of new and delightful characters. Now, one thing is, she is the first female Doctor, real quick. I understand that, but you notice what they did. The original format of the show was, well, when they started making regenerations to replace the actor, his initial times the Doctor could regenerate was only 12 times. So, the 12th or it's something like that. It's 11 or 12 times. Bottom line is, when you got to the 12th Doctor, he dies. So, since the show, when it was reappeared to us, it resurfaced, whatever you want to call it, the show surpassed that number because they never expected this show to last for 55 years or whatever it is. Maybe it is 55 because it started November 8th. No, that was my date of hire. It was November 23rd, 1963, I think. Something. Well, then JFK got shot. It was the same day because they had to rebroadcast that original episode with Hartnell. But bottom line is the show has been very popular. So they let the show with a male character base playing the Doctor, male person playing the part, run its course. That is done. And, they came up with some idea that here live forever. So they let the normal show go its path. That path is done. Theoretically, Doctor Who should have died after the 12th Doctor. But he didn't. So that is an open, no-holds bar to change whatever direction they want to go. And that direction of getting a female to play the character started years ago when Tom Baker made a joke and said, well, when I leave, the next Doctor Who is going to be a woman. And that started the whole ball rolling, of like, hey, maybe we should do that. So, honestly, I don't have a problem with Jodie Whittaker because I've seen her in another film. And personally, she seems like she's pretty good. I've seen some of the stuff they put together, not very much. So I don't really have much to say otherwise. But I will say this much, and God love him, I could not stand back in the day. I did not like at all. I got some of his memorabilia. I got the box set of all his stuff a while back. Sylvester McCoy. He was the worst Doctor Who of them all. I bought the box set. I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch these horrendous episodes that at the time, I refused to watch because I thought the guy was a total goofball. But I bought them and was like determined to watch them. I got almost halfway through and was like, you know what? This is worse than drinking a bottle of bleach and expect not to have any harm happen to me. I mean, that's how bad they are. I mean, it's just, they are horrible. And the bottom line is, they've done that in the past. If it's not picking the wrong actor for the part, it's the other thing of just writing really bad, horrible scripts that were so bad that is like, is this the same show that when I was 12 years old and in my teens and when I was in my 20s that I couldn't wait to come home and watch? Even with Christopher Eccleston, when I first saw him, believe it or not, that first season, I must have watched, I'm not even joking, at least several times. And I'm talking about the very first episode. They weren't fantastic. They were okay. But compared to, Sylvester McCoy, it was like a slice of heaven. So seeing Jodie Whittaker, there I go, I said it wrong. Seeing Jodie Whittaker, and even the last Doctor Who, God love him, he looked like the character. Most episodes, the whole thing was being politically correct on the format of the shows. The aliens, they had to change. They changed the best villain on the show, the Master, into a woman, which would have been okay, kind of, even though the original actor got killed in a car accident driving to making a show of Doctor Who, and that was with Roger Delgado. The man was actually late, and he was driving at high speeds to do the next shoot of the next show for Doctor Who, and he ended up getting killed. So to me, that was disrespectful. Not only did they pick, she's a hot-looking lady, though. The woman that, her name is actually Gomez, is her last name. A British lady, though. She's a really incredible-looking woman, but that to me was a slap in the face. And I hate to tell you, and they put her in a dress. At least the Doctor Who, they told people, if you expect this to be that we're going to push the fact that we got a woman playing the character of Doctor Who, you might as well forget about it, because it's going to be about, this is an alien. This is not a man. This is not a woman. Yes, it looks like a man or a woman. It's an alien. And they're going to the new director is going to stick with that, supposedly. I don't know. But we had the last director, or producer, I should say. I'm sorry, not director, producer, who was all about political correctness, and it was horrible, a lot of these episodes. And the actor who played the role is a great actor, by the way, who played Doctor Who. But the episodes, about 90% of them were horrible. So you might see where I'm going. I mean, Jodie Whittaker is going to be a welcome mat for me. I'm going to put my welcome mat down for her, because she's got to be a lot better than what they had picked for the last Doctor Who. Nothing about the actor, because I'm drawing a blank on his name too. But I'm going to try to pull it up without making a lot of clanging noise. Because that actor played in some really good television programs in England, but him playing Doctor Who was just horrible. The best thing of the 12th Doctor, by the way, was his very last companion, which I met her, and Peter Capaldi. He was not one. He was my second least favorite Doctor Who. He looked like a Doctor Who, but he was just horrible as far as the role how he played it. And he was a fan of the freaking show. So that makes it even worse. Yeah, I'm trying to think of her name, but I saw her and I loved her. She was freaking funny. And they were trying to be politically correct again, so they made her a lesbian. She was a black girl, and she was really cute. But they had to make it, again, completely politically correct, so they made sure to go all the way and make her a lesbian. And it was like, that backfired so bad, because they were trying for the whole, we got to make this politically correct. It ended up being, like, hilarious. And she came to Philadelphia, and it was like, I got to get a ticket for her. Sorry about that. I got to get a ticket for her, and I want to see her. Pearl Mackie. She was adorable meeting her in person. I said, you know what? You are the best thing that happened to that show. I loved her. She was freaking hilarious. She was like a sidekick, I guess. They made her, unfortunately, but the humor that she brought to the show just like saved it for me, because I was just ready to give up again. Just like I did with Ferret Pant Man, which was the one I mentioned before. Sylvester McCoy. God, he was horrible. I love the man. I actually had him do an intro to my show. Matt's going to say, didn't you pay for him to do an intro for your show, which I never use? Yeah, I did, but it was even he couldn't do that right. It was horrible. You know, because my favorite Doctor Who's so far would be obviously Tom Baker, William Hartnell, Pertwee, I watch a lot of John Pertwee. I'm trying to think. The when they brought the Doctor Who back, Christopher Eccleston was really good, and David Tennant was incredible. He had some real shit written episodes. Pardon my French. He had some really badly written episodes. But as far as playing the Doctor, he was incredible because he was just so like goofy. It was great. So I liked him too, Eccleston. The other Doctors, you know what? I hate to say this, Matt, the guy who played the Doctor Who before, was that it's going to be like 3 Doctors before. Why am I drawing a blank on his name now? Matt. I'm going to think of all the other Matts I know. I'm just going to put in Matt Doctor Who. And I was just watching something with him last night. Him when he was the Doctor Who. Matt Smith. I hate to tell you, but I could barely get through Matt Smith's episodes, too. He had some funny ones. He had some quirky lines. But there was a lot of episodes of Matt Smith's. I can't even go back and watch them. And I got that for a short period of time. I went back and I ended up buying this thing called BritBox, just so I can watch certain Doctor Who episodes. But you know which ones I'm watching? The old ones, not the new ones. And I would probably go through that line of just David Tennant and probably Jodie Whittaker is going to be another one. And who else did I mention? Well, Christopher Eccleston, obviously, and David Tennant. And David Tennant, I mean, there's a handful I wouldn't watch of his. And it's not because of him. It's because they didn't put him in the episode at all. He was like, they had some episodes that had taken more of his time. And what they did was they kind of did these standalone episodes that were considered Doctor Who episodes, but they had nothing to do with Doctor Who. And those were major disappointments, so they would be excluded from my David Tennant years. Anyway, going back, I was talking about the box. Boy, it's going to be over an hour. I'm sorry, probably. Nun came in number 1, the movie The Nun, and it was laughable. It was really bad, but it made a lot of money. Peppermint came in number 2, but it made hardly nothing. One movie that's been doing pretty well, and it's been out for 3 weeks, was Crazy Rich Asians. So it's kind of funny. Now, the movie I liked, thank God it's still in the top 10, but that's not saying a lot because it's the movie The Meg. I'll go that far, and that's about it because they're the only movies I'm actually interested in. So The Meg, I was kind of disappointed in. I didn't go in with high expectations either because I thought it was just going to be plain bad to begin with. So you don't go in with high expectations. You go out less disappointed. I went in with very low expectations for The Nun, and I came out disappointed. So I don't know how that worked itself out, but I did. You know what? I shut down the stories that, I should have not done that. Some stories that a friend had sent to me, and miraculously I shut them down. So I go back. One of the things I had a discussion about tonight, and this is why I wanted to do kind of a show. Now, my friend Todd had sent it to me. And we had this discussion. This was why I wanted to kind of bring this up. I'm going to have to divert from this once I can find this article to kind of plug in that segment from Ken Matthews so I don't forget it again. And I am looking for it right now because I asked Todd, hey, can you send me this link to this article that I forget about? And forget about it. And guess what happened? I lost it. Well, I had it open. I had it all prepped for the beginning of the show. And guess what? I deleted it. So give me a minute, folks, because I'm not going to... Sorry about this earlier today. I hate when I do this, actually, because especially when I had my show prepped. I mean, I might end up having to do this. I will just play that Ken Matthews segment because I hear some voices in the background too, and that's a no-no for me. Okay, I found it. So I could have went for that clip, which I do want to play. And you know what? I have to apologize to Matt. He did send me some links from YouTube, some very interesting stuff on some really good, on the conservative side, people. Actually, the one guy he sends me, he's really not a Republican, but he thinks really conservatively. He's an independent, but his stuff is very strong. And unfortunately, his stuff is very long on YouTube, and for me just to cut what I wanted would be kind of a difficult task, so I won't even start, even though I did bring it up. Now, the one my friend Todd had sent to me, Matt was talking about it. I did mention it to these guys, and it kind of fell by the wayside, like it wasn't a big deal. And I think I did mention this in a podcast, but it did come up in discussion with myself, Matt, and Ed Rick, mainly with Matt because he did not get any feedback. And I was like, okay. And I wanted to do a whole show just about reflecting on this. And I'll see how I'll do this. It was about Asia Argento, accused of victim shaming Jimmy Bennett after she denies sexual assault claims. Now, this Asia Argento is the woman who I remember, if I remember correctly, is the person who first brought up that Trump had sexually assaulted her, I believe. You know, she was one of the first people to make these accusations. Was it Trump, though? I believe so. Matt will correct me. Speaking about correcting things, Matt brought this up after we did the show. It wasn't a big deal, but we were talking about different musicians, and I was saying because I love this song from the past called "Boys of Summer," which for some reason I thought it was Bryan Adams, and I was completely wrong. And he said, "Walt, really, that was from the Eagles, the band the Eagles, and Don Henley." So we were both off. I got Matt off guard, and I generally get everything wrong. So that was bad both ways, but especially me. So yeah, I wanted to mention that. So maybe it was that other guy. Maybe it wasn't Trump. I thought it was about Trump that she was trying to say, hey, he had sexually assaulted me or something. I thought it was that other guy. It's not helping, isn't it? But, she's the first one who stepped up to plate and say, I was sexually assaulted by, let me just put it, by so-and-so. But here, Asia Argento then had been in trouble, and it got pushed under the rug for having the sex with a 14-year-old. So apparently, okay, so you're the pot calling the kettle black by saying, well, now again, I apologize if I got this wrong, which I probably did. Let me see if I can find anything else on her to make sure. But she's blaming being a victim when she's one of the biggest hypocrites. And Rose McGowan was backing this up too. So, I'm trying to figure out. In fact, I might just put in Trump, but I don't think it was Trump. Because I'm drawing a blank on the other guy's name. And you know what? Okay, Weinstein. So she might have been one of the first people to step forth on Weinstein. Maybe it is not Trump. So I'm going to go both routes, and just that at least I'll be correct in one way. Was it Trump or was it Weinstein? I don't remember. The bottom line is she's making all these, I'm a victim, I'm a helpless woman. nonsense accusations, and yet she played the mom to this kid. When he was 7 years old, she played the mom in a movie. She played the mother of this kid who was 7 years old, and then 7 more years later, she had sex with him. And they had pictures, and they have what do you call it? Text, and she couldn't deny that, but she tried to. She said, "Well, that's not me." Well, yeah, It's in black and white. It's been texted. You have pictures with a 14-year-old as you're intoxicating him and having sex with him. So how can you deny something when you're like as guilty as charged? There's no way to hide it. And you're denying it, and you're saying how you're a victim. So that got me thinking about that. And there was something else, I think, because my friend Todd today was complaining about where he works. It's been the second or third time where women are just flaking out on him, customers. He works at an Office Max, Office Depot, home, a Staples type environment store, and how it's generally the females who are flaking out. So I do want to take this and explain. I might go in a little bit, but I do want to play that Ken Matthews thing because it's getting up to 10 minutes. And I hate making these long shows. So it got me thinking about this, because Matt was talking about, my friend Matt, he does some kind of sort of social media things. And he was saying how some woman was attacking him for some reason. I can't remember exactly what it was or what it was pertaining to. And bottom line is, it's generally these women who are with the pink hats. I am so victimized. I am getting less money. And it's all because of Trump that I am in this predicament. And it made me think, really? You're a victimized woman? Now, I don't want to downplay women who are sexually raped, assaulted, or victimized, but you know what? I really strongly do believe that it doesn't happen as often as they want you to believe, meaning the female agenda, in this country as it would happen in, somewhere on the outskirts of countries like Russia, India, the Middle Eastern countries. There, I would believe it. In the U.S., where everything's about complete political correctness, no, I don't believe it as much. And I hate to say that. I sound like an awful person. Anyway, before I go any further with this, and if I can remember, because I might just cut it with that. I don't know yet. Let me kind of dig or put in, I don't remember how long this segment is. I do have it queued up. I will put it in right now, hopefully correctly, with Ken Matthews on this whole illegal immigration thing and this uprise in whooping cough. So let me put that in now.
There's a story that proves this point very well, and it's the story of whooping cough. Now, for people who know, this is a life-threatening childhood illness, disappeared in the 40s after the vaccine was developed, and the bottom line, the news media did not want to focus on it because it came back, it kind of started to, there was a resurgence of whooping cough in 2012 and 2014, and it corresponded, and this I know for sure because I know people that work in certain areas of the government and off the record. But did you know that in 2012, the United States had the highest number of whooping cough cases in more than half a century? 20 dead, 48,000 cases. Now, I could see that it corresponded to illegal immigration. My neighbors could see it. A lot of people could see it. Why wasn't it talked about? Remember when all the children were coming in on the train and Nancy Pelosi was trying to register them to vote? And Obama was saying that everybody's welcome here. And Governor Jerry Brown was saying, come on into our state. It's a sanctuary state. Nobody was talking about quarantine tents at the border where children and families were coming in with diseases, whooping cough among them, that we hadn't seen in decades. It's an issue. And I knew it was an issue just by the way people covered it or didn't cover it. So I went back and I found a couple different stories. One jumped out at me. This is from NPR. This is from National Public Radio, and even they had to admit, and this is what, isn't it funny that we have to use this as an indicator? I always check National Public Radio or PBS, and I always run through the facts, and I'm thinking, if they caved in and said it, it must really be bad. And I'm going through the story that National Public Radio did on it, and they said the majority of the whooping cough patients are Latino. And then I read further, and it said the majority are illegal of that group. So just to circle around for a moment about the whooping cough, if you were wondering why I brought it up, because I think not only is it an issue this week around the country, and in particular in Georgia, they're having an outbreak, but I personally see more to it. But I wanted to find something else that shed light on it that the news media didn't cover. So I went back to an article from 2014. This was after the big influx of illegal children. Remember when mom and dad were just leaving the kids at the border? They were putting them on trains. Well, then I read this article from NPR. And this is where the news media, they steer the story the way they want. What is the big issue, and what was the big issue in 2016? Illegal immigration. What is a cornerstone issue of President Donald Trump's administration because of the wall and other things? And what are we finding out now with more legitimate research, objective research? We're finding out that President Trump is probably closer to the view of illegal immigration, illegal foreign nationals, than most people thought he was 2 or 3 years ago. In other words, most Americans want illegal foreign nationals removed. Most Americans think there should be some type of barrier, border, wall, or fence, one of the four. And most believe that as of this moment, any illegal foreign national criminal should be deported. That's the majority of what Americans think. Trump brings that to the forefront. But when you look at a story like this, Latino babies are disproportionately affected by whooping cough. It speaks to the lack of access of health insurance that's particularly predominant within the Latino community. But let's read further. Latinos make up 62% of the uninsured. But let's read further. Because many are afraid that signing up for coverage will expose family members who are not lawfully in the U.S. Many parents who enter the country illegally are afraid they will be discovered and deported if they enroll their children, who may be legal immigrants or citizens, into government coverage. So let's review. The child is in the school system. He's on the sports team. Maybe he comes to your kid's birthday party, but a relative is there illegally. So they're not approaching health and wellness and insurance the way you or I would as American citizens. You can also add that it's cyclical in nature, and it tends to peak every 3 to 5 years. The last big outbreak in California was 2010. But just the fact that illegal immigration, and this is the point of this that the media will not run with because it doesn't fit their agenda. Illegal immigration into the United States negatively impacts every facet of our life, whether it's health care, whether it's the prison system, law enforcement, school, infrastructure. What do I mean by infrastructure? Well, it's literally more people, and we build and design things for a certain population of people. for a certain amount of people. Count. So if you build a school for 1,000 people and you decide to add 250 refugees, now you've changed the whole process, the whole service, not to mention the issues that they bring with them, the demand for a translator, health benefits, and other issues. And that's just a small microcosm of it. What about every single time you're turning on the TV somewhere in America, especially in high illegal immigrant states, what are you seeing? The illegal immigrant who kills a family because he's drinking and driving, or was able to commit so many crimes because he's off the system radar. And that's, to me, the biggest issue of illegal immigration. Not the fact that the prisons are overcrowded, also because of illegal immigration, but there's a lot of places overcrowded. And people don't talk about it because the news covers it in a certain way. But you can take any major problem we have, whether it's education, whether it's the prison system in particular, law enforcement, community relations with different cultures. What puts a strain on all of it? Illegal foreign nationals. In San Francisco, a couple months ago, we were talking about now, if you're in San Francisco illegally, you can vote for school board members. What is that? I'll tell you what it is. It's a slap in the face to citizens, to American citizens who are paying the taxes for their children to be in that school system, and somebody in San Francisco, because they are a progressive leftist, says, well, you can vote now. You can have a say in it. So the news media does not cover the depth of certain issues, and we should fault them for that. We should hold them accountable.
You know, most of that, I actually forgot that segment from Ken Matthews because it's been a while, and I honestly can't find the energy to actually pull everything out and set it up. I'm just kind of depressed. So I'm glad I listened to that again. It was half listened to it, but some pretty powerful stuff in there. I was actually going to do a whole show because you know what got me started? God love her. Some woman I have on my Facebook. She does these really bad horror movies, and I don't know how else to put it. They're just pretty bad. And she does them with this other woman, I think, or somehow I know some way else I know this woman. Her name's Kelly Helen Thompson. Kelly Helen Thompson. Somewhere either she does the Pennhurst thing, or she used to, or something. So I have her as a friend on Facebook, and I look at her stuff, and I know she does all these really bad horror movies. But this was another thing. God love Kelly, but she had posted up something of like, because my friend Matt sent me something similar to this, and she posted, so I had taken it and I had put it on my Facebook page from hers. I shared it. And it was titled, or she put, that she almost got married several times. And it's true, on this segment she put up this video, the surprising amount of millennials who will never get married. So my friend Matt, like I said, he had something similar to that. And it was like, okay, well, you know what? It's funny that two people in such a short period of time, like a matter of a day, had posted something on a similar topic. And it made me think, okay, well, what is this? Why aren't people getting married? And, you got to kind of weed through with these, because it was two different sources from two different people. And part of me, wants to say, okay, there is some truth to this. And other stuff I kind of just take with a grain of salt. Give or take on who I was listening to. A lot of it is, the one that Kelly had placed up on her video segment. She was, the one she found was saying, well, okay, well, it's because women have more choices. Women could not get their own credit card 60 years ago. Women were forced to get married. Well, you're not forced to do anything. And I kind of explained to my friend Todd and my friend Matt, no offense, but a woman has more options than a man does. And that's just my opinion. I'll probably get ridiculed for saying that. But being a woman, now I kind of don't fit this norm. You don't have to get a job. You can live at home your whole entire life. And the worst you're going to get accused of is being an old maid. That's as far as it's going to go. You're not going to be shunned upon or be called a loser or anything like that. It's just, it's misfortunate for her. The credit card thing, I kind of have to take that with a grain of salt almost, because I remember being a little kid and my mother had more credit cards than she knew how to handle, and she really had no source of income, and she had them all racked up beyond belief. She was a very generous woman. I love my mother, but she would be buying stuff for me like TV sets. Back in the day, all there was black and white and some color TV sets. So she bought me a black and white brand new Zenith TV, and she stuck it on a credit card. Everything she got was on a credit card. And she was in debt for thousands of dollars. A lot, like how much? Maybe like close to 10. I don't know. And I think my dad finally helped her pay all these debts off. But the point is, the credit cards were in her name. It wasn't like one of these situations, well, they were under his name. No, they were in her name. Because trust me, credit card companies don't care if you're a man or a woman. They just want to make sure that you're going to be paying money to them for the rest of your entire life. That's all they care about. So, and driving a car, it was like nonsense in this video she had. Again, I love Kelly. You know what I mean. Not like I know her firsthand. But I'm just saying, women had less choices. Women were making less money than men. And, there is points that both both parties brought up. Well, women lose money when they're out on fraternity leave. Women have this wrong. They don't benefit from this. They only make 72 cents for every dollar from man. That is all of that stuff is complete nonsense to me. I don't believe it. I don't buy it, because every job I've had in the past 30 years of my 50 years of living, every person that was the higher echelon were all women, and they were making much more money than I ever will make. All of them. I've never heard this nonsense or seen this nonsense that I hear about that I would consider fake news. I don't believe any of it. I think it's all BS. And I'm going from what I see. So you can take that with a grain of salt. Well, you don't see what the rest of the world's going through. Well, you know what? That's exactly what it is. And I think these people would shoot me down for what I'm saying. You're not seeing the rest of the world. You're judging what I will be saying on what you see in your little world. Well, the only places that this stuff could hold some ground is what I mentioned before, these other countries. Because I don't see this stuff happen in the U.S. on the level that apparently it is happening. Because I think, again, it's nonsense. And I don't buy it for a minute. And again, this will go back to the Democrats making certain parties that are quote-unquote minorities feel like they are truly victimized. Like they can't hold their head above water and stuff like that. Well, it's, if you want to believe that stuff, that set of folks going to go, I'm not going to say who, go beyond females, you have a stronger chance on succeeding, getting your own home, being self-sufficient, even if it's off the government, more so than I ever will be. It's just the way it is. You know, the person who is, or the group of people who are truly, again, my opinion, who are being victimized and scrutinized against, I believe, you know, you heard me say that. I believe, I think, I feel, is the white male. And I'll leave it at that. So, with that, that statement. Now, you will think differently, but I would have to say I disagree. It's one of those things my friend Matt will say, well, let's agree to disagree. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to say. Let's agree to disagree if you think differently. But when I hear this stuff and how the percentage of people getting married is lower, it's because, no offense, but one, people are more self-centered. You know, they are only thinking of themselves. You know, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that, years ago, our parents and our parents' parents got married when they were teens. And they did that because, one, which was pointed out, if there was such a thing, a two-tier income is going to be better than a single one. And if you did get married and the husband worked and the wife sat at home, I don't want to use that word, but was at home, the reason is because she had the job of taking care of the children if they had children and stuff. And it sounds like that's a degrading job, but that's a very important job. And what does that do for them? Well, you're actually setting forth our future generation who's going to be taking care of us. So that people don't realize how important that role is, and they degrade it as, or demise it as being, well, this is not important. This is degrading the women. No, it isn't. It actually is a very important task because they are setting up, I don't want to use this term, but you're setting up the troops. They're going to be taken over when we're too old and we're gone. So if everybody wants to be the main person, the breadwinner, and there's nobody else taking care of the foot soldiers, or whatever you want to call it, then guess what? You're not going to have anything. It's the whole system's going to fall apart. But it's all this nonsense about victimization and everything should be about me, and you're taking my rights away from. Now I might be going off on a different subject. You're taking my rights away as a woman to have an abortion. Well, again, you're just genocide. You're genociding our population, our country, and everything else. So how is that a good thing? It isn't. And again, because of all this fighting and squirming, what do you call it? This nonsense going on. I mean, and it still continues. I mean, I hate to tell you, but women are getting more money, if not the same amount. And if they do, a man doesn't have that option. I hate to tell you this, folks, ladies. A man doesn't have the option to take off for X amount of months, after they have their child. If you want to be politically correct, you should offer that to guys. Like, hey, don't worry, you can take off, what do you call that? I can't remember the proper term, but you should be able to take off because, hey, because you notice anymore, this whole nonsense of political correctness, what they say, you don't hear that the woman's pregnant. You hear, we're pregnant. It's like, you're not pregnant. The woman's pregnant, but you're not pregnant. You're the husband. You donated some sperm, but that's all you did. It's not that we're pregnant. She's pregnant. But if you want to, the point is, if you want to be politically correct, why not just push it to that thing of, well, if they're both pregnant, then they should both take a sabbatical and both have awesome time and get paid for it. And if it means a cut in pay, let it be that too. Make it fair that way. I mean, you got to see that this is just a bunch of nonsense, and none of it's, only a small percentage. Let me put it that way. I'm sorry about the noise. Only a small percentage of this nonsense is really true. In fact, when I am trying to fight to get my job back. I've applied to different places. I said this, I think, earlier on this show. It's going to probably be a 2-hour show, maybe an hour and a half. Maybe not. And everywhere I applied, I've even applied to equivalent to a grocery market. Some place called Ollie's. And I got shot down. Like, so, yeah, your point is, you want to apply for a job? I don't even get a call back. And I'm actually covered under the Disabilities Act. So I talked to my lawyer today on another thing. And I said, yeah, I've been calling. I called last week. I've called for the last couple months. I've called for the last year. The person, my counselor, who's is assigned to me, if anything happens to my job, I will help you get another job or find something of more interest. I never get a call back from this particular individual at all. And one time, the woman who's in charge of me, this counselor of some sort, said, well, I'm not in charge of getting you a job. So I asked the lawyer today, I said, yeah, the woman from the OVR office down on Hope Street in Norristown told me that she's not responsible for getting me work. And he said, that's nonsense. It is her job. Because I could go down to the unemployment office and apply for a job, but the fact that the way I process information is not the same as anybody else, that's what the OVR was for. And she doesn't want to bother to get me a job. So, 1, I have a disability. 2, I try to look for a job, and nobody wants to hire me. 1, because of my age. 2, you tell me I have a disability, forget it. 3, I hate to say it, because I'm a white male. You don't want to hear that, folks, but it's the truth. So, and everything is about me. Not me as myself, but that's how people think. Everything is about me. So it's nonsense about this stuff. Yes, I've won in many different directions. I probably don't make much sense to anybody. I'm sure I'm going to hear that from the one person who listens to me. Unfortunately, I'm right about that. It is only one person. So, when I hear this stuff, well, the people get married is down. Well, one thing, it's because we live in the me generation. And I hate to say it, probably both sexes, but I would say probably more so with the female part, are more center focused on, and I kind of said this, I think, in some voicemails, that before you had the advantage, you didn't have to work unless you wanted to. You weren't going to starve. You weren't going to be, most likely, you weren't going to be out in the street in the cold. Most homeless people generally are males. Yeah, there is some females, but mostly. And the females are probably because there are, I'm guessing, I'll say it right now, most likely because they are under some type of drug addiction or something. Sounds really nasty, but yeah, generally it's not because they lost their job, they can't get hired, they're ex-military vets. It's nothing like that. It's because of other situations, and it's usually stuff they do to themselves. So it would be like kind of almost saying self-inflicted. A man, you can't get a job, you can't support yourself, or your significant other, you are totally screwed. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. So I don't believe this whole thing of like this, why people can't get married. Well, yeah, part of it is because we have a generation, not everybody, but a generation of millennials who just don't want to work and really aren't looking for jobs. I've been trying to look for a job and have had no luck. But, I mean, one of the places, it was a place called, I don't know if I mentioned it yet. I'll mention it now. It's called Ollie's. And, I applied for a job there, but they never even bothered to respond back. And it's like, I have a BA in communications, an associate's degree in human services. So it's some type of degree in counseling, a very small one, but I have a background in education. Not education. I have an education. No, that's not the right word. I have two different types of degrees for what little bit they're worth. A friend the other day that I used to work with posted on his Facebook that a lot of these jobs any longer are not even looking for people with college degrees. You can get a really good job without a degree, period. You can get a job, a really good job, with a high school diploma, or probably, which it did not say, but it did say something about high school diploma, probably like a GED. Well, I would think if there is this market for people, especially males, which we are the minority now, because even years ago when I was attending Cabrini College, I got there under being a minority because I was a male, and that was majority all females at that college. And that played a big part of me getting into that college. And plus having a rather decent, sorry about that, a rather decent GPA. That was the other reason. So, yeah. I don't know. So but yeah, I would think what I'm trying to say, if I was going to hire somebody who was older, mature, had a degree, which shows that they spend time being disciplined some way under the education system, I can't think of how else to put it, on over top of somebody who is probably a little bit irresponsible, their interests, because I've heard this from my friend Todd, who works as a supervisor at where he works, that he has to deal with millennials, 20-something-year-old kids out of college, I wish, out of high school, who their main thing is going out, partying, hanging out with their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and playing video games. So at any time, they will call out for the most ridiculous reasons, and they will miraculously be sick before their shift and call out. So would you rather have somebody like that, who is irresponsible, I got to play video games, while my boyfriend, and that's another thing my friend Todd constantly complains about, where he works, they hire the boyfriend and the girlfriend, so they got to work the exact same schedules, and they got to be off the exact same days. And if they are conflicting schedules, then the other significant other will call out that day. So, again, what would you want? Somebody who is completely, he's got a GED. He dropped out of high school. Well, that's really impressive, but that's what they look like they're going for some reason. And I think I know why. Or a person with a high school diploma, or would you rather hire somebody and take your chances who may have some medical issues because they're older, but are, better educated, been in the job force for much longer, you would think they would, and are going to be a lot more responsible. I mean, heaven forbid, years ago, I worked at this place called Cheers. It was a novelty store. It's no longer around. There was one in Horsham, and there was one in Philly, folks. And my boss, I was a third key. That's like the lowest part of being a manager. That's the closest I ever got to being a manager. And I worked at this place, and this guy told me, Jeff was his name. I don't know his last name. Jeff told me, he says, I am not hiring any more teenagers for this job. Nobody who is young, because they are irresponsible. He says, I'd rather hire a retired person over top of anybody who's under so-and-so age. And this was like 30-some years ago. So, and that whole situation has gotten much worse. Much worse. So, again, and I think I'm not going in the direction I wanted to, so maybe a lot of stuff doesn't make much sense to anyone. But I guess my thing is, it's just like more and more people are just completely irresponsible for one thing. And that's why they're not getting married, for another thing. Going back to the main subject, they're not getting married because, well, they're being more selective is a poor excuse. And that's exactly what it is. It's a poor excuse. It's not that they're not getting married because they're being more selective. Oh, yeah, they're being more selective, but it's because they don't want to grow up. They don't want to be responsible. They want to be and act like children for their entire life. Do I have room to speak? No. Did I try to find some significant other? Yes. Does it work? Absolutely not. Because you got to deal with this group of 20-something-year-old, 30-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old, blah, 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 children. People who never are, they're going to have the Peter Pan syndrome, and that's why they're not getting married. They're going to suffer with that for their entire life, and that's the main reason. There's no other reason. It's not because, they're being more selective. Women are more independent. Well, guess what? And this is what got me started on this, thinking about this. My friend Todd, he's complaining about, this is another side. How many sides of a coin can there be, Walter? This is the flip side of the coin. Well, ladies have been complaining for years. We want equal pay. We want to do the job of men. And, this maybe doesn't have anything to do with the part where this is why people aren't getting married. It could be, though. I mean, the obvious reason for why people aren't getting married, they just don't want to act like mature adults. They want to act like children. They'll live together. They will fool around. But taking the responsibility of getting married and working as a team and not as separates, because even these people in relationships, they're really not a couple. They're basically, pardon my French, they are fuck buddies. They're not in a serious relationship whatsoever. They may think they are, but that's not a relationship. That's not even being responsible. There again, I won't say it again because I'll have to already use that. What do you call it? Explicit contents, and I hate doing that, but I will. So, yeah, I mean, those days of responsibility from finding mature adults is way over for now. Hopefully not forever, but for now. Anyway, already I'm stepping away from the mic too far. So, but yeah, the thing was, it kind of what I wanted to do the show on. Ladies, you complain about, I can do the same job as a male. Physically, there is a lot of stuff you can't do. It's not a man's fault. It's not a woman's fault. It's just, that's the way God made us. There's no other way to think about it. That's the way God made us. And heaven forbid we got to, I'm agnostic, but I will admit there's some type of higher power, whatever you want to call it. Which a lot of people now want to deny that. So what I'm trying to say is, I've noticed this. I think Matt might have brought it to my attention maybe years ago, maybe lately. I forget a lot of things. But I've noticed, or read about it at least, that women who want to go into the military, I remember this from years ago. I tried to go into the military or get into the military. One time I was enlisted, one time in the Army, and another time into the Navy. Didn't go very far because of my background and myself. It didn't last very long at all. Years ago, 20 years ago, maybe longer than that. It actually happened way before even that. The boot camp had changed an awful lot. It had changed an awful lot. And why was that? Well, because having women in the military, they could not do the same thing in the boot camp that men could do. So they had to make adjustments. And the main adjustment they made was to make it watered down. And the bad thing about that is that concerned me is like, okay, there's a reason why they tear down the individual and rebuilt them. Because the situation you're going to be in is going to be to save your life and the other person's life. And you have these wishy-washy boot camps where you can't touch, literally, you can't touch a person, you can't insult him or yell at them because we have women involved now and it's not nice. You go overseas, do you think the terrorists are going to be as nice to you and like, oh, I won't touch you. Oh, I won't say anything that's going to be offensive to you. Are they going to care about that? No, they're going to tear your head off or they're going to torture you and rip your body part organs off. So, yeah, really smart move. So, but women wanted the same jobs, factory jobs, other jobs. I had it at my job where a lot of the jobs that were supposed to be quote unquote that either a guy or a gal could do, end up going to mostly like, okay, for so-and-so job, yeah, we're going to have a man do this job and we're going to have women because, you know, either one is able to do the job. Here's the job description. And, you know, you apply for that job with the understanding that you can lift 50 pounds or you can move a forklift truck. But when push comes to shove, guess what I hear from the ladies a lot of times? Oh, I can't do that. I'm a woman. I can't do this. This is beyond what I'm capable of doing. Really? And yet we still have this thing where women are saying, oh, I can do the same job as a man. Really? It only applies on paper. It does not apply in factual life. When it comes to like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. No, you can't. And you've proven that by saying you can't. And I've heard that before out of my own ears. And I've seen it with my own eyes. So that's another thing that is just really disturbing. That is really disturbing. It's very annoying. And again, where it comes down to, a lot of these high-pressure jobs that these women want, even if it's not physical, if it's mental, what is happening to these women? Well, the same exact thing that's been happening to men for years ago. They're getting certain ailments like cancer caused by high levels of stress. They're having the same type of physical problems that men had for years. And the reason is because you've been fighting tooth and nail that you wanted equal rights, equal pay, blah, blah, blah. Now that you're getting all this stuff, now all of a sudden, you know, you can't do it. Oh, my God, I can't do this. But I still want that same job. I still want that. I still want to do the same thing in the military. I would want to be a Navy SEAL. I want to be a contractor. I want to be some type of ridiculous bodybuilder. You know, all this goofy nonsense. And it just never seems to, they never seem to like understand. And it's just always fighting about it. Well, meaning that fight, oh, I got to fight Trump over this. You know, because he's holding us back. He's saying that he wants to basically grab everybody's vagina. No, he doesn't. You idiots. So, yeah, I mean, it's that kind of nonsense that, you know, this gets to me. And it's just like when I see this stuff that, oh, well, we are, you know, people are more responsible than they ever were. They don't want to get married and they're doing it for responsible reasons. Well, I'm already have to put, what do you call it in there? the explicit terms or words or whatever, bullshit. It is all total bullshit. That's what Walter wants to say. And I did say it, so I'm happy. I am happy. Not really, but I'm just saying. So anyway, that's part of what I wanted to say. Yeah, quite a few times I went off track. So there is two other things, and it is after midnight, and I'm still getting back feed from people in the house talking extremely loud when I asked them please not to. Normally, the other folks in my house would be in bed by now, but the fact that I asked them, I'm going to do a radio show, can you please be quiet? They will stay up until 4 in the morning just to make sure they can make as much noise as possible. And you know what? I wish I was kidding about that. Anyway, there was some interesting things, and I thought that I actually had the one at least posted on my webpage. Here it is. So I had two more stories, folks, and I promise you, it'll be over. Tonight, the misery of iWalter will end. I was watching, my parents were watching the news. And I had a laugh about this, so I had to look this up. Do you know now it's going to probably be in the DSM-5 or whatever it is for diagnosing people with mental illness? They now have determined that people who are addicted to video games and play those all the time suffer from some type of mental illness with playing too many video games. So I had to look it up. I couldn't catch it to video, grab it on my phone, the camera part of the phone, and record this because I thought it was so entertaining. So I went back tonight, just when I started the show, as I was doing it, and try to look for what the diagnosis is for a person who is addicted to video games. And I did find something. It says psychguides.com, video game addiction symptoms, cause and effect. And it says there are different types of video game addictions. What causes the video game addiction? What are the signs of video game addiction problems? And by the way, this is not for children. This video game addiction problem, this is for adults, grown adults, supposedly, which again falls back into the perpetual adolescent stage of both adult men and women who are addicted to doing nothing else but just playing video games all day and not looking for work. So, and it said there is this link on this webpage. You can find one probably better than the one I found that will send you in the right direction to a addiction recovery for video game addiction. I wish I was joking about this, but I'm not. And it says, I'm just laughing looking at this. Emotional symptoms of video game addiction, feelings of restlessness, preoccupation, lying to friends or family members regarding the amount of time spent playing video games, isolation from others in order to spend more time playing video games. I can't make this up. Physical symptoms, fatigue, migraines due to intense concentration and eye strain, carpal tunnel syndrome, and poor personal hygiene. I know many people who would fit into this. Other things are drowsiness, dry mouth, excessive sweating, itching, and fever. So, and they actually offer, which I'm not surprised, antidepressant drug addiction. I'm sure they do have medication over. I was looking, I apologize. I was looking for in there. I'm going to post this on my Facebook page because it is way too entertaining. I'm sure they have some type of, med therapy of some sort. Like they basically, because these doctors, these psychiatrists, you can't be a psychologist and do this, but a psychiatrist who their whole initiative is just to basically get as many people in their office and out as smoothly and as quickly as possible and put them on as much medication as possible for the sole purpose of making more money, because they make for every prescription they fill out is more money in their pocket. So anyway, I just posted this on my Facebook page, and it says that the amount of people that suffer with this video game addiction is 6 to 15% of all gamers. That's kind of high to me. So anyway, that was on our local Philadelphia news tonight. The other thing that caught my attention, because I complain about this, not that I get any feedback from anybody, friends-wise, but I will mention this because it was on the news tonight. Now, not happening around here, but down in Philadelphia, it says Roosevelt Boulevard. It is so extremely dangerous for people to cross the street. It's a very large highway, and they do have a pedestrian walkway from one side of the street to the other one. It's a major highway, too. That they are putting in cameras now for speeders, speeding cameras, that they will catch these people. And it's got some people in an uproar because they feel like this is not right. But, okay, well, people are getting ran over from high-speed people driving way too fast. So the particular article I found, because I think that's the one they were talking about. It could have been somewhere else. This was the article, by the way, I seeked out and found. Okay, it says, this one's a little bit dated, this article, but the one tonight was on the news, because now it is Tuesday, was on September 10th, 2018. So, yeah, it was on the news as of last night now. I'm trying to see if there's any statistics, how many people actually got hit and possibly killed. Since 2005, more than... now, this is an older article, by the way. This one's dated back like a couple months, 9 months. So it's pretty old. So it could have increased by now. Since 2005, more than 100 people have been killed on Roosevelt Boulevard from high-speed people driving at high speeds, I should say. So it says it's known as the most dangerous road in Philadelphia. So that may have been the one they mentioned about tonight. I don't know because I don't remember what station they had on. But 100 people got killed by getting hit by high-speed drivers. So that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Well, Walter, it was since 2005 till now. So what is that? That's 13 years. Yeah, but do you really think that's like nothing? Well, there's more people. 100's like nothing in the population of the population of Philadelphia over a span of 15 years. Yeah, well, would you want to be one of those statistics? I certainly wouldn't want to be. I think the statistics should say 0, personally. No one should get killed from crossing a street, and especially when it's I think it's gotten progressively worse. Why I'm bringing this up, because I don't know how many times we live in a suburban area. I do with my folks, and years ago I never had this issue. I can't even walk out in a development to the curb to get my mail without worrying about getting hit by a car. And there's been numerous times that the same thing has been a concern for both my parents. And my mother, who is 80 years old, and my father, who was 80 years old, have both worked in the yard for the longest time. Probably we've lived here, I would say, for at least 30 or 40 years at least. And when he first moved into this part of Trooper and this development, I wouldn't even think twice of crossing the development street, more or less going out to the mailbox, worried about getting hit by a high-speed person when we have signs that say the speed limit in our development and other developments around us is only 25. I never thought twice about it. But now I do when you have people going through a 25-mile zone at 50 and 60 miles an hour. Yeah, it is a big concern. So I wanted to point that out. So, yeah, and it is a serious issue. And it's the fact that we get more city dwellers who are moving out to the suburbs and still think they live in the city. This should not be happening in the cities. It definitely should not be happening in the suburbs. So there was that. And I did want to point out, I started talking about this. This will be, I promise you, the last thing. Met this guy at a comic book convention during the summer, and I thought he was pretty, Matt's going to laugh or say, why are you bringing this up? Well, I know that he's not going to listen to me, Mr. Lobo. I got in a long conversation with him, and quote-unquote, the manager, it's a fictional character, the manager, but a real person who dresses up, not Mr. Lobo, the manager for the band Guar. I met him at the comic book convention. We had a blast talking, bullshitting about stuff, BSing. And I had the other weekends at this horror movie fest down at Colonial Theater. I met up with Mr. Lobo because he was there with his wife. And I told him, hey, you know what? This is great. I love you. You're great. I bought some of your stuff. You seem really cool. And I said, hey, I'm not even asking for any money, and he actually has on his webpage, he works out of Philadelphia. He's originally from California. So I told Mr. Lobo, I won't even ask you for any money. I just want to do it for the experience. When you're filming your show, especially when he's working out of Philadelphia, you know, can I join in? Can I help out? Can I volunteer? Basically, could I be a grip? I mean, I'd be the oldest grip. But could I do some, like, you know, basically, I didn't say it out, but he knows, he should know what I'm talking about. Would you mind, you know, have me be, like, help you out if it's doing the camera, the mic, you know, do some grip work for you? I won't ask for any money because he does record stuff. He does do it on streaming and other, you know, ways he gets his stuff out there. So, yeah, all I was basically asking for, hey, you know, just get my feet wet because I haven't had any success. You mind me kind of tagging in there or coming in and helping out? And I said I would do it for free. I mean, I do need money, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, even at my age, you got to start somewhere because it has not been successful for me at all. So the first time I, you know, found his email on his official webpage, which is insomnia.com, I believe, and I reached out, and he responded back within a short period of time. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff. He's making a living, you know, he's comfortably living off of doing this Mr. Lobo, Insomnia, or whatever it is. So I'm looking at it now. Cinema Insomnia Theater, I think it's called. He has a web page. It's got that name. So, dude, I'm offering my help and not asking for money. I just want to experience because help it out somehow. I'll get in the credits, and maybe if he likes me enough, I might even, maybe, I doubt it, end up in one of his skits, which is fine with me because you get your face out there then. And is there anybody of importance checking this stuff out? Probably not, but you never know because he has met up with different people who do that have made a living off of it and been on cable networks that are friends of his. Like, he communicates with them. Not direct friends, but they communicate with him. And it was like, okay, well, you got to start somewhere. And, I mean, this is how the one time, thank you to Matt, though, too. Not that it went anywhere, but one time I met up with this guy, Roberto Casada, and that was thanks to Matt. You know, I got my foot in the door with him for like a brief moment, but I'll take what I can get. And Roberto reached out to me and he says, give me your phone number and I want you to do a podcast on me. And it was like, this is excellent. So, you know, it's all about networking. That's the thing. So I asked him, and then I said, hey, Roberto, I was trying to make he can't be that busy. Very simple, small talk with him. And I said, hey, Roberto, there is some movie that you have posted on your one of your or a couple of his internet shows with this creature. I think it was called Mr. Robot or something like that. It was a really bad 1950-something horror movie where it was such a low budget that the alien robot was actually an actor, this is no joke, in a gorilla costume with a scuba diving helmet on his head with 2 TV antennas sticking out of it. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing when I saw that, because I remember when I was a kid that I saw this particular movie, which I did watch. Let me see if I can find it again. On MTV, when they were like starting to show TV shows and movies. That was before even the TV show thing for MTV. They showed some bad horror movie for Halloween. It was that one. I'm trying to look for its space helmet. It's called like something. I can't find it for the life of me. It's not even that. Let me try one more time. Man in Gorilla. It was like a gorilla outfit. And it was hard for me to get through because I had to get up a few times. I found the picture. 30 most ridiculous alien invaders of all times. It fits under this particular movie. It was supposed to be, believe it or not, the alien was supposed to be a robot. But they gave the actor that was supposed to be a robot, and that's what they worded it as, was a gorilla costume with a scuba diving helmet. Okay, it says space gorilla in diving helmet, robot monster. So yeah, it is hilarious. Another one was, they named it Turkey from Space, which I did see this movie the other night online. The Giant Claw. It was another really bad movie, but the one with the gorilla is the one I'm getting at. So I asked Mr. Lobo, dude, do you own that costume? Because I think it is god-awful hilarious, and I envy you if you do. Simple question, expecting a simple, hey, yeah, I really don't own that costume, but yeah, thank you for noticing that. No, I got nothing. Like, he was irritated already. It's like, all I asked him was a simple thing. I'll work for free, try to make small talk, and you think I'm talking to the President of the United States. Like, I'm asking for, so I'm being that much of a nuisance. Like, hey, I can't be bothered by you, you simpleton. It's like, you got to be joking. My friend Todd just sent me something. I'm going to see if it's worth reading. Sorry about that, Todd. Not you listen to me, because I know you don't. Okay, he texts me this picture of this girl. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to take a chance. Guys, it's a picture of some young girl at a party, I guess. And it's guys, semicolon. I have 3 baby mamas, 2 felonies, around 1,500 days incarcerated, a GED, again, a young girl. I drive in an uninsured 1996 Honda with no seatbelts, and I don't have a job. And then it has girls that are finding that sexually attractive. Okay, that's a good one. I like that. So I'll have to put in LOL to Todd. That means laughing out. I think it's called laughing out loud, or is it? Yeah, it's laughing out loud. LOL. It makes sense. Anyway, that really pissed me off with you, Mr. Lobo. Not that you would even begin to listen to some bad show. Not a badass show, just a horrible show like mine. And I'm getting up to 2 hours, so I'm going to end it here. But real quick, simple question, dude. You did not answer me. That pissed me off. But anyway, it's like top worst horror movies of all times, and it's quoted as, actually it's number 1 on this list. Space Gorilla in Diving Helmet, Robot Monster, played by $40 a day stuntman George Barrows. To have no clue who he is. Roman was his name. R-O-man. You know, Roman, but it's Roman. That was the alien's name. He got paid $40 a day to wear that goofy costume. And he was supposed to be a space robot. That was the most goofiest outfit I've ever seen. The other actors were like, it was all shot like something I would shoot as an amateur. It was entirely outside in the fields back in 1950 something, where they had zero budget for paying for anything. They literally, actually, it seemed like they shot in the middle of nowhere just because they didn't have to pay for anything that way. And the main costume was this guy in a gorilla suit. So Roman is a space gorilla. Whoever heard of such nonsense? Space gorilla who is in between wiping out the human race, plays with a bubble machine. That was another thing in that movie I totally forgot, because I did watch the entire thing and it was really hard. His equipment to talking to the other alien apes with the space helmets was a bubble making machine. I am not joking about any of this. In a cave it says Bronson Canyon. When the director Phil Tucker couldn't afford to make the robot suit, he hired Barrows, who had his own ape costume, and gave him a plastic diving helmet with 2 attached antennae, and the legend was born. So the guy who was directing this horrible film could not even afford a costume for the stunt guy. So the stunt guy used his own gorilla ape suit, and that was supposed to be a robot. So an ape looks just like a robot for some reason. Anyway, it is going on 2 hours. I apologize for the nonsense, and I hope, sorry about that, I hope that something that I had mentioned tonight may be interesting. I really doubt it, but I'm gonna reach out and say, well, maybe something was interesting. Not really, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Thanks again, folks, for listening to me and iWalter. And listen to the show with Matt, the music teacher guy, as well. Please do. You won't make it this far, but I'm just saying, please do. So thanks again. It's Walter from iWalter, signing off for now.